stop now. This is especially for proton. Okay, so I've got two glasses here, and you can see that they're both full of water. And in here, I've got stuff. Particles. It doesn't matter what they are. Alright, so there's stuff in there. And if you look at that, you can say, there's a higher concentration of stuff in this. You agree with me? There's a higher concentration of stuff in there than there is in there. I could put a couple in there, and I could say that this is the stuff is more dilute in this one. Yeah? You're happy with that? Yeah. Okay. But then what about the water? So the water is more concentrated in this one. We don't think of it that way, but it's true, isn't it? The water is more concentrated. Okay, so that means that in this one, the water is less concentrated. It has to be because there's more stuff. You can see that there's exactly the same amount in my carefully drawn glasses. So the water is less concentrated. And so osmosis is to do with water. This is important because it's in the exam, but it will turn up in your future as well. So we've got a higher concentration of stuff in here, a higher concentration of water in here. Okay, so if I turn this instead of this being a cup, if I turn this into a membrane here, and I make my membrane with holes in it, by Brownian motion, do you know what Brownian motion is? Brownian motion is the motion that's going on all the time. If you look at some water with a bit of ink down a microscope, you might have done that at school, you can see the ink moving about just randomly. So randomly, these particles are moving, and they're not necessarily moving towards the holes, but they're just moving randomly all over the place. So some of them will go through the holes, and some of them won't, and some of them might go through the holes and then come back again through the other hole or something like that. It's just going back and forth, back and forth. Now all of these can go through all of these holes because these are all small enough to get through those holes. So eventually you're going to end up with exactly as much stuff over here and exactly as much water over here just by chance. Yeah, it's just going to back and forth, and eventually it's going to even out, and so they're going to be exactly the same. Yeah, everybody happy about that? Mm-hmm. So if I'll replace my stuff with something that we know about, and because you probably heard about this, I'll replace it with saline. You heard of a saline drip? Probably some of you might have even had a saline drip. Yeah, you're for rehydration. Why don't they use water to rehydrate you? We shall see, because that's important, and that will come up certainly in your future, because they used to use water to rehydrate people, and then people got pneumonia, so it's not really a good idea. Okay, so we're using saline. What's saline? What is it? Saline. Salt. Solution. Sodium chloride. So what happens to sodium chloride when I put it into water? It breaks up. So we've got Na plus and Cl minus. That's our stuff in there. Yeah? So now supposing these holes are a lot smaller. We've still got water in here, but less water. That's still going to go through, isn't it? That's still going to go. That's still going to go through. Okay, so osmosis is to do with water. Small particles like sodium chloride and like glucose are going to be able to easily get through quite small holes. In our experiment, we've got starch, which we know is a really huge molecule. So here we are, really huge molecule. It can't get through those holes. The water, though, can still get through those holes. And because of osmosis, it's going to keep going into those holes because it's trying to equal up the water. It's random, don't get me wrong, it's not like got any thought, it's not going there on purpose, but it's going to even up the water. So where water is more concentrated, by osmosis, it will move to the less concentrated side. And conversely, our stuff, or in this case our sodium chloride, is going to move towards its less concentrated side. Am I doing for time? All right. Okay. So this is gonna even up, and so this is just a membrane that both things can move through. Our big stuff that we changed this to starch, our big stuff is stuck in here. It's not going to be able to move there because it's too big to get through the holes. So if I put my iodine in, my iodine can get through there because iodine, remember, it comes as I2 and it's going to break into that. So they're tiny, tiny things. They're going to get in there, but they're going to bind to this because that's what iodine does, make starch turn black. And then it can't get back through again. Once it's bound to that, it's not going to get back through again. So our iodine is all going to disappear into here where it gets trapped, and our little glucose molecules that we put in there as well, because they're so tiny, they're going to be able to get out. So the thing is, they're going in and out because they can. So they're going to even up, just like the water does. So the water will even up. The iodine will all move this way, but actually then the water is going to see, that's not really the right word, but the water is going to be still coming in this way because there's going to be more stuff because the iodine is binding to this, and therefore less water. So by osmosis, the water is going to keep coming, yeah, until eventually, if we left it too long, the water would burst the little tubing that we've got. So osmosis is where water is moving down its concentration gradient passively. No ATP is needed for that. It's just moving by itself. The glucose is just moving by itself from an area of concentrated glucose to an area of less concentrated glucose. We call it down its gradient. The iodine is moving as well, down its concentration gradient, but then it's being trapped by the starch. The starch can't move because it's too big. So this is a semi-permeable membrane, because although it's permeable to the water and to the iodine and to the glucose, it's not permeable for the starch, or the starch and iodine combined, because it's too big. So that's why it's called semi-permeable, because it's permeable to some things and not to others. So if you think about dialysis, that has the addition, so dialysis, so that's a semi-permeable membrane, because you want the toxins out. You're taking the toxins out of the blood, but you don't want to disappear all the red blood cells and everything else. You only want the toxins out. And so it's a semi-permeable membrane, but it has the addition of having pressure on one side from your heart and all of that. So it's pushing against the membrane, but still the blood cells and those sorts of things that you want to hang on to are too big to get through. Now, so if I have my toxins coming through the dialysis tubing, the semi-permeable membrane, pushing the toxins out, hanging on to the things that we want to keep, and I keep taking the bag or the container away that I've got my tubing running into. So in this case, we've now got tubing running in. But if I keep, I'll destroy this completely now. If I keep changing this water here, every time all the toxins come out from this tubing, I take that water and throw it away and put fresh in. It's not actually water, it's a special solution, dialysis solution. But if I do that and I keep taking that away, then the concentration of the toxins is greater in here than it is in here, so they're going to keep moving. Yeah, they're going to keep trying to even it out. And I actually did a really neat, have I still got time? No? Okay. I did a really neat experiment with the science students where we tried to extract protein from kiwi fruit, actually. We extracted the protein, and to clean it up, we did exactly this in a dialysis tubing. Same thing, just like these ones. And we kept changing for hours, literally hours, even came back the next day, keep changing the water until we got all of the impurities out. Because all of the impurities, our protein that we were trying to isolate was too big to get through the holes. But everything else, all the salt and all the rubbish and everything else, would come out. And each time we changed the water, then there was more being drawn out. So that's what's going on in your magic body. Okay, is that